Hi, my name's Neve and I'm the manager for Norfolk SENDIAS. And I'm joined today by Leah, who is our senior advisor within the service. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about SEN support and reasonable adjustments. So, Leah, what are the common themes or questions that come through our helpline from parent carers in regards to SEN support and reasonable adjustments?
I think some of the most common ones are always what is SEN support? When is it needed? So, does my child or young person need that SEN support? And a really common one that we do have as well is about there being a difference at home and at school, and the parents
Yeah.
feel that SEN support is really needed, but the school aren't necessarily seeing the same behaviours or sort of need that the parents and carers are seeing at home. So yeah, that's a really common one that's heard on the helpline quite a lot. And our advice to parents would always just be to start having those conversations with the setting as early as
Mm.
possible, because we know that there are children and young people who present very differently in a school setting
Yeah.
than they do at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big pieces of advice that we give to parent carers in this situation is to have a diary to record when you're seeing that dysregulation, those behaviours at home the school aren't necessarily seeing, because you might be able to start joining the dots and seeing that it happens every Tuesday, for example, or you might be able to see that it happens after a particular teacher, or a particular class, or a particular situation. For example, if there has been a fire alarm that day, a fire alarm test, and you see that dysregulation when they get home. So it's really important to have evidence of that to take to the school. And like Leah said, it's important to have those conversations with the school. And something else that we always advise that parent carers do and schools do is seek the views and
Yeah.
feelings of that child or young person themselves, because sometimes they are able to voice what is causing them issues at school, which is causing those sort of dysregulation spells at home. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, like I say, not all children and young people, but like Neve was saying, some children and young people will very much be able to tell you exactly
mm,
why they are finding those things really tricky, and that in turn will influence the provision that's put in place. And it can be sometimes as simple as, it's really noisy in the dinner hall, and actually I find that really overwhelming. And it might be that they either eat somewhere else or they wear ear defenders. It can be different for every child or young person, but if they're able to, their voice very much should be in the middle of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's those reasonable adjustments that Leah was just talking about, like being able to eat their lunch elsewhere, or being able to wear ear defenders, that schools should be making, or places of learning, not necessarily just schools, should be making for children and young people that have special educational needs and disabilities. And the other thing that's really important in getting the views and wishes and the voice of that child or young person is, with a lot of provision, a lot of support, it is trial and error, and it can be hit and miss. And actually, by seeking those views of that child or young person, you're able to figure out what might work without having to try three different things or four different things first, because they're able to voice what works for them and what doesn't work for them, what they're willing to try and what they're not willing to try. So it's really important to seek those views and wishes. But I think we get it a lot on the helpline, where it's there is that discrepancy, and it can be really hard for schools, because if they aren't seeing that dysregulation and those behaviours and that emotion, it can be really difficult for them to recognise what it is that, as a parent carer, you're sort of talking about.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think, like Neve said, but even if there is a huge difference and the school or place of learning doesn't necessarily see that, that's why those conversations, and like Neve said, that diary of sort of this is what's happening is a really important thing to start sort of as early as you can, because yeah, it will help influence that provision. But we've got lots of resources on our website around SEN support, so there's a lot of other resources that you might find helpful.